Hello, my friends. Welcome once again to Faith Walk 101. You know, there is a reason why God tells us not to do something. And every time we do something that God tells us not to do, we invite so many problems in our lives. And we probably all can testify to that, can't we? You know, in Isaiah chapter 41 and verse 10, the Bible talks about how we are commanded to fear not and to live by faith in the Lord. Throughout the whole Bible, the Bible talks about fearing not. This is something that God is telling us not to do. Don't fear. Don't fear. Do not fear. For he says, for I am with you. Do not be afraid, for I am God. I will strengthen you. I will surely help you. So there's a reason why we should not have any fear, because of the things that God is telling us. He says, I'm with you. I'm going to help you. I'm going to strengthen you. I will uphold you with my hand of righteousness. So what we have is a God of love who's going to protect, provide for us, and keep us safe. And so here's what he's telling us. He says, don't fear. But the challenge is in this world is that we are afraid of a lot of different things, aren't we? So if we could learn this, if we could just take what we hear from the scriptures and apply it to our lives, just think of the kind of life we would be able to live while we're, the kind of life that we would have to influence others while we are here. You know, when God says do not do something, it is for our protection. In Philippians chapter 4 and verse 6, he says, be anxious for nothing, but in everything, by prayer and supplication, with thanksgiving, let your requests be made known to God. The biggest problem in our world today, we have a lot of fear and we have a lot of anxiety. And here are the two things God is telling us. He says, don't be afraid and don't worry and have fear. Don't worry and be anxious. So here are two things that's sort of leading the emotions in this world, fear and anxiety. And here are two things that God is telling us not to do. Isn't that something? So what if we just gave it all to God like he asked? He says, just bring it to him. Instead of trying to rearrange our problems so that we can invite more problems into our lives, it's pretty much what we do. Wouldn't it be more beneficial to our mental, physical, and spiritual health if we could just be obedient? Just do what he says. When God says, don't do it, we just don't do it. This would help you, wouldn't it? This would keep us safe, and that's what he's doing. He wants to keep us safe. So, look at our world today, my friends. We want to restore everything that has been taken away. We want to try to fix the things that's happening in our world. But God says, don't be afraid, don't be anxious, don't worry. Now we can, when we worry and when we're afraid, there are some consequences for that. And we're seeing that happening in our world today. So there is a reason why God tells us not to do certain things. And we see the results of it from a world where a lot of people are afraid, a lot of people are anxious, and we're seeing it in our world today. So my friends, there's a reason why God tells us not to do a lot of things that we take on. I hope this lesson has been encouraging to you, and thank you for joining us on Faith Walk 101.